Hello and welcome to the Prosperity Podcast, a series of financial advice podcasts aiming to deliver important information yet in a bite-sized and easy to digest manner. Today we'll be talking about later life advice, to which joining us will be Rachel Jefferson and also Ros Armstrong, two of our SOLLA accredited financial advisors. They'll be answering questions on this topic today that could have real relevance to both you and indeed your families. So without further ado, let's start with our first question.
So let's start by asking our experts to introduce themselves a bit further.
I've worked in financial services for over 20 years, and during that time I've helped clients plan for retirement, manage their affairs through retirement, as well as help clients who need long-term care advice. As an accredited advisor for SOLLA, I've been able to help people both from a technical point of view as well as offer a hand-holding approach to those people that need some advice to navigate themselves through the care system. I've also got some personal experience. It was seeing my father-in-law and the difficulties that he faced when he was diagnosed with dementia. It was at this point that I thought that I would like to provide support and guidance to families in similar situation.
Hi, I've been a financial advisor for over 25 years, but what I've found during that time that being an advisor isn't a one-off exercise with my clients. It's working with them through all the changing circumstances in their life and helping their finances fit and meet objectives which might be short-term or long-term. And this is very, very true when I'm looking after families who've got a relative who's going into care. I'm an advisor accredited by the Society of Later Life Advisors, which is shortened to SOLLA. I've also completed an external course with Nottingham University on dementia to learn more about how it actually works in people's lives. And I'm a member of the Court of Protection Practitioners Association and attend training events looking at how people should operate somebody else's finances when they have a legal appointment like a deputyship or whether a power of attorney, which is very, very important. My own personal experience is that my mother had to go into care about 6 years ago. And it was very difficult for our family trying to work out what we did, where we went to for help, and organising her finances as well, and working with the care home to make sure that she was happy. So with that personal experience, I feel that I have an empathy in working with families to help their relatives, and that's what I'd like to do.
Can I claim any benefits if we're self-funding?
The benefit that's most often overlooked is called attendance allowance, and I think it's because the name doesn't really give any clues as to what it's all about. There are two rates of attendance allowance. The lower rate is £59.70 a week at the moment, and it's August 2020 when we're filming this. The higher rate is £89.15 a week. What it's designed to do is that if somebody needs some help in the home or in a care home, it's designed to help pay for that help. So if you're at home, it might be having carers in, having people to come and do your shopping and things like that. But if you need care overnight, and that could be in your own home or in a care home, then the high rate can be claimed. Did you have any more to say on that, Rachel?
Yes, what I would add there is some clients I've come across, I'm surprised that they hadn't been claiming attendance allowance, or they had been claiming attendance allowance but not at the right level for them. So I think it is really important to make sure that people are claiming what they can claim and maybe get some help in completion of the forms to get that benefit.
One final point about this benefit is that it's not means tested. A lot of people think because you're self-funding a relative in care that you can't claim any benefits because you have enough money to pay for the care, but it's not true. Attendance allowance is absolutely free. It doesn't matter how much money or how much income you've got. It's available in order to help with your care and should be claimed if you need it.
Will the money run out? And what might happen if it does?
Putting this simply, then yes, the money could run out. The factors that contribute to this are the cost of the care and how long someone is going to live for. It's really important to consider all of the options that are available to help pay for the care and to try and make that money last as long as you possibly can. As a self-funder, if the capital falls below a certain threshold, then you may get some help. Ros, can you answer what happens when the money does run out?
That's a really good question, Rachel, and it's a situation where you have to go to the local authority for help. The process that's involved is that the local authority have to do a care assessment, and they then have to do a financial assessment to see where you are in terms of your income, what savings you have, and how much they're going to ask you to contribute. And what they do is take into account the cost of care fees and also the cost of regular personal expenses, like if you have to pay for a chiropodist, if you have to pay for incontinence pads, something like that. They take all of that into account and they build up a budget for you that you then work from. So it's really important, if possible, when you go into a care home to have some sort of analysis of the sustainability of the money that you have. And unfortunately, none of us know how the cost of care is going to go on a year-on-year basis. And we also don't know how long somebody's going to live for. So with those two unknown factors in mind, the only thing you can do is the best for your relative that you can do at the time. But what we will do is we will help you put together the kind of budget to put towards the local authority. We'll help you work through the financial assessment with them and have a look at the money that your relative has. If you've got savings of less than $23,250, you are expected to pay something towards the cost of your care. But if your savings drop to $14,250 and below that, then you don't have to pay anything. Those are the rates in England. The rates are different in Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales.
If one parent still lives at home, where most of the wealth and assets are tied up, how can we then fund care for the other?
So the scenario here is your mother still lives at home and your father is now to enter into a care home. Once the local authority have carried out the care needs assessment and agreed that care is required, the local authority then carry out a financial assessment to see if any contributions need to be made towards the funding of the care placement. What the local authority cannot do is include the capital or income that belongs to your mother. This is because the local authority do not have the power to assess couples according to joint resources. Each person is treated individually. Therefore, the jointly owned property is disregarded from the financial assessment for as long as your mother remains living in that property.
What weekly fee is affordable for my relative, so I know what care homes I can consider?
The issue about what weekly fee is affordable is going to really depend on what the minimum fee is in the area that you live in. I would advise going to talk to a care fees consultant. There are quite a few around who can have a look at what the kind of rates are in the area that you live in, to have a look at where your starting point is. And then I would come in and have a look at what money is coming into the house already, pensions, any benefits that are being claimed. I would have a look, for instance, as to whether your relative, that your father's claiming attendance allowance, which we talked about earlier, and just see what is already available to pay for care and what capital is also available. Is the house going to have to be sold? What are the arrangements that are going to have to be made? So we have a look at that, have a look at what's available, then work it out. There are ways that you can buy a product to pay for care fees, for instance, where you pay a lump sum of capital into an annuity, and that will pay care fees for the rest of somebody's life. So we have a look at all of those things and all of the options that you have to see where the affordability lies, but it does involve some financial assessment.
If a parent wanted to hand down as much of their estate as possible to their family, how can they protect this?
It's only natural that you would want to protect your mum's estate from care home fees, so that as much as of her wealth can be cascaded down the chosen beneficiaries. However, you cannot simply just give money away to avoid paying for care home fees. This is known as deprivation of assets, a way of depriving someone of assets that could be used to help pay for care costs. Have you got any experience of this, Ros?
Yes, I have. A lot of people have asked me the same question because it does seem very unfair that when you sell a house, you're going to have to put that money aside towards paying care fees and not towards the things that you wanted to, like paying for a children's education. But as Rachel said, the problem is if the local authority are ever brought in to help fund the care, they will have a look and see if you've taken money out of your parents' estate for something that they wanted to do originally. and effectively deprive them of the assets to pay for their care. So it is really important that any financial transactions that are made don't fall into this category, because what the local authority do is disregard the gift. They say, well, we're going to treat it as if this never happened, and actually ask the parent to pay more money towards the fees than they can actually afford.
And what are your fees as a financial advisor?
It's very difficult to tell you exactly how much we would charge for the advice. The important thing is we need to understand the type of advice that is required in terms of what assets are in place, how much the care is going to cost, and how that shortfall can be funded. At Prosperity Wealth, we offer various ways in which we can meet with people. This can be done face-to-face, it can be done via the telephone or video conferencing tools. The importance is that first meeting is at our expense. It's about learning about you and what you're trying to achieve. The important thing is we will not do any chargeable work until you've agreed to our client agreement and are happy with the fee that's put forward. Do you want to add anything to that, Ross?
Well, yes, I think the most important thing that I've found is that when people are asking for help, what happens is that help is often in stages. So right at the beginning, they might not know whether they've got to sell their house or what they're going to do with it. So the first hurdle has to be met first. So I prefer to deal with this in stages. So we have a look at stage one, which is what do we do with the house? How are we going to release all the capital that's there? The second stage might be, once that's done, let's have a look at all the investment options that are available for that capital in order to pay the care fees. So I will charge the fees on a kind of contingent basis for each stage. But what we do is have a maximum fee that's payable, and we don't let people pay more than that maximum fee. So again, right at the beginning, you'll be given a client agreement and we'll explain this process so that you pay as you go effectively until you take regulated advice, and then we deduct from that maximum fee what you've paid already, if that makes sense.
And that just about brings us to the end of this edition of the Prosperity Podcast. Thank you again for listening in on our conversation around later life advice. If you've got any further questions of your own, or indeed if you'd like to speak to an advisor, our contact information will appear on screen shortly. Alternatively, you can please feel free to speak to your care home manager and ask them how you might be able to make contact with us. Finally, just thank you from myself, Rachel and Ros. Thank you for listening, and please tune in for the next edition of the Prosperity Podcast.